Deep beneath the crashing waves of our blue planet lies a world so vast and alien that we have explored more of the surface of the moon than we have the bottom of our own oceans. It is a realm of crushing pressure, eternal darkness, and silence, where monsters and marvels coexist far from the reach of the sun. But what happens when a species that has called these depths home for millions of years suddenly vanishes? When the last of its kind is captured on camera, staring back at the lens before slipping away into the abyss of history forever? Today, we are looking at 7 haunting and incredible last photos of sea creatures that have either vanished entirely or are so close to the edge that their existence feels like a ghost story. These aren't just pictures. They are the final echoes of a lost evolution. From the legendary leviathans of the North Atlantic to the tiny, forgotten residents of tropical reefs, these images tell a story of a changing world. Stick with me until the very end, because the final photo we will discuss is of a creature so bizarre and majestic that scientists refuse to believe it existed until the very moment it was photographed for the last time. Let's dive straight into the deep end. The first image on our list takes us to the chilly, wind-swept waters of the North Atlantic, specifically near the rocky shores of Iceland. The year was 1844. Now, photography was in its absolute infancy back then, but the sketches and final accounts leading up to the disappearance of the Great Auk are some of the most heart-wrenching in natural history. The Great Auk was a flightless bird, often called the original penguin of the North. It stood nearly 3 feet tall, with a regal black back and a snowy white chest. It was a master of the ocean, diving hundreds of feet deep to hunt fish with a precision that few modern animals can match. But on land, it was slow and vulnerable. The last photo we have isn't a digital file, obviously, but a daguerreotype of a preserved specimen that was taken just as the species was being declared gone. This bird had survived the ice ages and the harshest storms the Atlantic could throw at it, but it couldn't survive the relentless expansion of human appetites. The tragedy of the Great Auk is that it was so specialized for its environment that once its nesting grounds were disturbed, it had nowhere else to go. When you look at the likeness of the last known pair, you see a creature that looks like it belongs in an ancient myth, a silent sentinel of the Arctic that we will never see dive again. It is a sobering reminder that once the last flame of a species goes out, no amount of technology can relight it. Moving from the cold north to the warm, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, scientists were desperate to find even a single survivor. The last confirmed photo of a living baiji was taken in 2002. Its long, slender snout pointed toward the sky as if taking one final breath before the end. It was a captive individual named Chi-Chi, who lived in a research institute. When Chi-Chi passed away, the goddess of the Yangtze essentially vanished with him. Expeditions in 2006 used high-tech sonar and underwater microphones to search every inch of the river, but they heard nothing but the mechanical hum of cargo ships. The silence was absolute. Seeing that last photo of Chi-Chi is like looking at the end of a 20-million-year-old lineage. A creature that had outlived the dinosaurs was brought to its knees in just a few decades. It makes you wonder how many other secrets the Yangtze might have held before it became a highway for industry. The third photo takes us to the Gulf of California, where a tiny, elusive porpoise known as the vaquita is fighting a losing battle against time. The vaquita is the smallest cetacean in the world, famous for the dark, panda-like circles around its eyes and its shy, secretive nature. Unlike dolphins that leap and play around boats, the vaquita is like a ghost. It avoids noise and stays hidden in the shadows of the sea. There are photos taken by researchers in the last few years that are likely the final glimpses we will ever have of this species in the wild. In these images, you see the small dorsal fin cutting through the water, a fleeting shadow in a vast blue expanse. There are estimated to be fewer than 10 individuals left on the entire planet. 10. That is a number so small it is hard to comprehend. These photos represent the absolute edge of existence. If these 10 individuals do not survive, the tragedy of the vaquita is that it isn't being hunted directly. It is a bystander in a world of ghost nets and illegal fishing. Looking at its photo feels like watching a candle flicker in a hurricane. You want to reach out and protect it, but the vastness of the sea makes it nearly impossible to save a ghost. Our fourth entry brings us to a creature that sounds like it was invented by a fantasy novelist, the Caribbean monk seal. For centuries, sailors in the tropical waters of the West Indies reported seeing large, gentle seals lounging on white sandy beaches. These were the only seals native to the Caribbean, and they were known for being incredibly trusting of humans. Taken at Serenilla Bank, a tiny coral island between Jamaica and Honduras. The photo is black and white, showing a dark, sleek body resting on the rocks. There is a sense of peace in the image that is deeply unsettling when you know what followed. After that photo was taken, no one ever saw a Caribbean monk seal again, clinging to the hope that a small colony might be hidden on some remote, uncharted atoll. But as the years turned into decades, the silence from the Caribbean became deafening. That 1952 photo is the final visual evidence of a maritime culture that existed for thousands of years. It's a snapshot of a world that was still wild enough to support a tropical seal, a world that we have since paved over with tourism and development. Now, let's head to the deep, dark forests of the ocean floor for our fifth photo, featuring the mysterious and colossal Japanese spider crab in a way you've never seen before. While this species isn't extinct yet, the giant elders of the species, the ones with a leg span of 12 feet, are becoming increasingly rare. There is a specific photo from an underwater research mission in the early 2000s that captured one of these massive titans at a depth of over 2,000 feet. It looks like something out of a science fiction movie, its spindly legs spanning the width of the camera frame. These giant crabs can live to be 1 century old, meaning the individual in that photo might have been a tiny larva during the reign of Queen Victoria. These photos of the grandfathers of the deep are becoming the last photos of the truly giant specimens. Overfishing and changes in ocean temperature mean that fewer and fewer crabs are making it to that legendary size. When you see one in a photo like that, perched on a deep-sea ledge like an ancient, multi-legged king, you realize that we are losing the giants of our world. The ocean is becoming a place for the small and the fast, while the slow-growing elders of the abyss are quietly fading away. The sixth photo is one that many people find difficult to look at, but it is perhaps the most famous last photo in marine biology. It is the image of the last known stellar sea cow. To understand this creature, imagine a manatee, but 3 times the size, reaching 30 feet in length and weighing 10 tons. It lived in the icy waters of the Bering Sea, grazing on huge forests of kelp. It was a gentle giant, so buoyant that it couldn't even submerge completely. The species was discovered by explorers in 1741, and by 1768 it was gone, just 27 years after its discovery. While we don't have a camera photo from 1768, we have the last photo, in the form of the only complete skeleton ever photographed in situ, and recreations based on the last eyewitness sketches which serve as the final visual record. But more recently, a photo surfaced of a mysterious ribcage found on a remote Siberian beach that scientists believe belonged to one of the very last individuals. Looking at the sheer scale of the bones in those photos, you realize what a hole has been left in the Arctic ecosystem. These were the whales of the kelp forest, majestic and peaceful, wiped out before the Industrial Revolution even began. They are the ultimate example of how a species can be here one day and gone the next, leaving nothing but a few bones and a haunting legacy in the surf. Finally, we come to the seventh and most mysterious photo on our list. This is the image of the megamouth shark. For decades, the megamouth was nothing more than a rumor, a ghost of the deep sea that even the most experienced fishermen had never seen. In 1976, the first one was finally caught. But it wasn't until a specific encounter in the late 90s that a high-quality photo was taken of a megamouth in its natural habitat by a group of divers. This photo is often called the last great photo of the species because, since then, sightings have become incredibly rare and often involve individuals that have washed up on shore, no longer vibrant or alive. The photo shows the shark with its mouth wide open, revealing a glowing silver lining that it uses to lure plankton in the darkness of the midnight zone. It looks prehistoric, with a bulbous head and a primitive tail. It is a reminder that the ocean still hides monsters that are so rare, we might only get to see them once or twice a century. If the megamouth were to vanish tomorrow, that underwater photo would be our only window into how this creature actually lived. It represents the mystery of the deep, the idea that there are still beings in the water that we barely understand, and that could disappear before we even learn their names. When we look at these 7 photos, it's easy to feel a sense of sadness. Each one represents a loss of biological diversity, a branch of the tree of life that has been cut short. But these photos also serve a vital purpose. They are a call to action. They remind us that the ocean is not an infinite resource, and that the creatures within it are fragile. The baiji, the vaquita, the monk seal. These aren't just names in a textbook. They were living, breathing animals with complex lives and roles in their ecosystems. By studying these final images, We can learn what went wrong and how to prevent it from happening to the species that are still with us today, provide half the oxygen we breathe, and support the greatest variety of life on Earth. Yet we treat them like a vast, empty space. These photos prove that the space is not empty. It is filled with wonders that we are only beginning to document. The fact that many of these last photos were taken by accident or by small research teams shows how much we still don't see. We are living in a moment where we have the technology to see deeper into the sea than ever before. But we are also living in a moment where many of the things we might find are on their way out. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is a powerful lesson in these images about resilience and the importance of protection. For every species that we lose, there are others that we have managed to pull back from the brink. The humpback whale was once on a list like this, its numbers so low that many thought it was a lost cause. Today, thanks to global protection efforts, their songs are once again filling the oceans. That is the hope that these last photos should inspire. They should make us want to ensure that the photos we take today of the blue whale, the great white shark, or the giant squid are not their last photos, but just the beginning of a long and healthy record. The deep sea is a place of infinite mystery, but it is also a place of memory. In the layers of silt and the currents of the abyss, the stories of these vanished creatures live on. When a species goes extinct in the ocean, it leaves behind a void that can be felt for thousands of miles. The kelp forests are lonelier without the sea cow. The Yangtze is quieter without the goddess. We are the stewards of this blue world, and these photos are our report card. They show us where we failed, but they also show us the incredible beauty that is still worth fighting for. Consider the role of technology in all of this. In the days of the Great Auk, we had nothing but sketches and memory. By the time of the monk seal, we had grainy black and white film. Today we have 4K drones, deep-sea submersibles, and satellite tracking. We have no excuse for losing another species in silence. We can see the threats coming, whether it's plastic pollution, overfishing, or rising temperatures. These photos are evidence that we need to use this technology not just to document the end, but to change the course of the story. If you ever find yourself by the ocean, watching the waves roll in, take a moment to think about the creatures we've talked about today. Think about the vaquitas swimming in the shadows of the Gulf. These animals are a part of our heritage as inhabitants of this planet. Their loss is our loss. But their memory, kept alive through these final photographs, can be a spark for change. It can remind us to be more mindful, to support conservation efforts, and to respect the wild places that still remain. The ocean is full of ghosts, but it is also full of life. It is a place of endings, yes, but also of new beginnings. For every species that has faded into the black and white of a last photo, there are new species being discovered every year in the deep. We are constantly finding that the ocean is more complex and more resilient than we ever imagined. The key is to give it the space and the protection it needs to heal. These 7 photos are more than just historical curiosities. They are mirrors reflecting our own impact on the natural world. When we look at the baiji or the Caribbean monk seal, we aren't just looking at an animal. We are looking at our own history of consumption and expansion. But when we look at the photos of the vaquita or the megamouth, we are looking at a choice. We are looking at a chance to do things differently. We are looking at a future where we don't have to say goodbye to the wonders of the deep. The beauty of the sea is that it is always changing. It is never the same from one moment to the next. But some things should be constant. The presence of its ancient residents, the balance of its ecosystems, and the mystery of its depths. Let these photos be a reminder of what we have lost, but let them also be a reason to protect what we still have. And the tiny treasures of the reef all depend on us. Let's make sure that the next time we take a final photo of a sea creature, it's only because the camera ran out of film, and not because the animal ran out of time. Every time a scientist goes down in a submersible or a diver enters a coral reef, they are on a mission of discovery. Every image they capture is a piece of a giant puzzle. Sometimes those pieces are the last ones of their kind, but every image also adds to our collective understanding of life on Earth. They help us appreciate the incredible journey that life has taken to survive in the crushing depths and the swirling currents. They show us the adaptations, the colors, and the behaviors that make the ocean such a magical place. We often think of the ocean as a barrier, something that separates us, but it actually connects us all. What happens in the Yangtze affects the Pacific. What happens in the Arctic affects the Atlantic. The loss of a single species is a ripple that spreads across the entire world. These 7 photos are the evidence of those ripples. They are the documentation of a changing planet, but they are also a testament to the passion and dedication of the people who worked to find and protect these animals, even when the odds were against them. The photographers, the researchers, and the explorers who captured these images were often working in difficult, dangerous conditions. They did it because they believed that these animals mattered. They believed that the world needed to see them one last time. We owe it to them, and to the animals themselves, to look closely at these photos and to listen to the stories they tell. They are stories of survival, of tragedy, and of the enduring mystery of the sea. In the end, the ocean will always have its secrets. There will always be things in the deep that we will never see, and creatures that will vanish before we even know they existed, even if only for a final moment. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to remember them, to learn from them, and to make sure that their last photos are not forgotten. Because as long as we remember them, a part of them is still with us, swimming in the currents of our imagination and reminding us of the incredible, fragile world that lies beneath the surface. So, the next time you see a photo of a strange fish or a majestic whale, don't just scroll past. Look at the eyes, look at the scales, look at the environment. Think about the millions of years of evolution that led to that exact moment, and think about how lucky we are to share this planet with such incredible beings. The ocean is calling us to be better, to be wiser, and to be more protective. Let's answer that call, so that the last photos of the future are full of life, hope, and a sea that is once again thriving and full of monsters and marvels. The history of the sea is written in water, but it's also captured in light and silver on these camera sensors. Each of these 7 creatures was a star in its own underwater epic. Some of those epics have ended, and some are in their final chapters. But the story of the ocean itself is far from over. It is a story that we are all a part of, and every action we take, no matter how small, helps determine how the next chapter will be written. Let's write a chapter of conservation, of respect, and of a deep, enduring love for the blue heart of our planet. As we conclude this journey through these haunting images, take a deep breath. Feel the connection you have to the water and the life it supports. The world is a better place because these creatures existed, and it is a better place because we are here now to protect their legacy. Keep your eyes on the horizon and your heart in the deep. The ocean still has many stories to tell, and it's up to us to make sure there are still voices left to tell them. Thank you for diving into history with us today and for caring about the forgotten residents of the deep. Your awareness is the first step toward a future where every sea creature has a chance to thrive, far beyond the frame of a final photograph.